big hot topic right now is NFL report cards came out. And, I don't want to say some feelings got hurt, but there are definitely some franchises that did better than others. And Kevin, you sat down with Kadri Ismail and talked about this on Locked On Ravens. So we're going to give you a little clip from that, and we'll react on the other side.
When you were a player, you could anonymously say, hey, you know what? I like what we're doing here, but I want to recommend this, or I don't like what's going on here. And you're not going to know it's from me because it's anonymous.
Yeah, no, here's the crazy thing about it. As you asked that question, I immediately go to how it was like this unofficial, who were the really good teams to play for and not play for. And teams that really stood out that were not to play for were Cincinnati and Arizona. And they were like the cheapest of the cheapest and just bare bones minimum. I guess you can throw Cleveland in there as well. They kind of had like this really just kind of a scenario for themselves as well. So, yeah, there were some teams that you just was like, yeah, I don't really know about that.
I know that guy. I know that guy on the left. He looks familiar to me.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
That was not great reviews for the Cincinnati Bengals and Arizona Cardinals, Staley's. And to give context for people who don't know, so the players over this past season, when do these, real quick, do you know when these are taken?
I don't know. I'm curious to ask Nick about it when he comes back, because I think everybody gets it. I'm not sure how many actually answer it, but I love that they do it. It started last year. I think gives a really solid insight into, multiple, and they added new categories this past year too.
Yeah. So according to the NFLPA, and bring me up, Zach, because I'm reading this, but according to the NFLPA, 1,706 players provided information to share with one another about their current club to not only help them make important career decisions, but also help raise the standards across the league. So it apparently comes from everybody. It's almost just like, if you worked in corporate America or what have you, the employee surveys, I think it's the same thing. It's just for the NFL, which I find is hilarious, because if you actually, if you actually share, I'll share my screen here. If you actually look at this, like the way that this is broken down is kind of hilarious, because, in most corporate jobs, it's like, how well is your boss treating you, whatever. And like, food/cafeteria is a section here for the players, and
that was a big hot topic.
Yeah, apparently so. And honestly, it was one of the worst grade. So if you guys are looking at this is the Ravens report card for 2022, and the what brought them down into the middle of the pack. So the Ravens, I think, overall ranked, what was it, 15, 16, somewhere around there, guys?
Yeah. I believe it was.
Might have been like 19th.
Yeah, I think it was late.
No, 19 seems low, especially with all these grades. There's not one D in here.
But they had a lot of teams that, like Harbaugh. Not
they were 15th. They were 15th. All right,
that's what I thought. I thought they were in the middle of the pack. But anyways, food, cafeteria, and training room is what brought them down, and team travel, which is crazy, because if you guys didn't catch this, and we should have brought this clip up, but Kyle Van Noy went on Good Morning Football and talked about the travel accommodations, and he was like, these were awesome. So I mean, I'm assuming compared to like New England or maybe even the Chargers, the LA Chargers, at least they're doing better than them. So what I would say is, like, if I'm looking at this, there was a lot of chatter on social media, especially on Twitter, and even amongst ourselves initially. Like, we were kind of like, oh, the grade here isn't all that great. But I'm looking at this, and if you take out food and cafeteria, you take out the training room, and you take out team travel, Ravens are pretty damn good here.
Yeah. I think what's the one thing with the team travel that needs to be talked about is how much the Ravens had to travel.
That's what I'm thinking too.
They're going to London. They went back and forth between the West Coast. They had one of the most travel miles for any team in the league. That's
not the Ravens' fault, though.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. I think that's where the bias came from, where people were like, travel sucked this year. It's because they had to travel so much. There wasn't those stretches of we have a bunch of home games and then we're just going to Pittsburgh, DC, Philly. Like, they were going, okay, home game, travel across to the West Coast, home game, go to London, home game, back to the West Coast. And it just was all year. they were traveling across the country to go play these teams in it. After a while, I bet that does feel like the travel just sucks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm pulling up because the Ravens went last year. They got an A. The players voted. It was an A in travel. So I just don't know how it goes from an A to a C- in 1 year, and then you have a player in Kyle Van Noy saying, "I don't know where this came from." Now, one of the things is, interestingly enough, under each category, they put like little notes about like this specific subcategory in this category. For travel, the Ravens last year, it said that there were no roommates on trips. So, in terms of them actually having to room with somebody. And then you look at the travel now, the point this year was they're one of 7 teams that requires some of their players to have roommates the night before a game. So that must have changed from last year to this year. Yeah. Maybe that had some impact on why the grade got lower. Who are they
making? That's got to be special teams guys.
Or rookies, squad. Maybe. Yeah. Practice squad makes sense, yeah.
I'm just trying to think, like, I don't see them being like, Lamar, I'm really sorry, dude. We got to cut costs and you got to sleep. You got to have a roommate tonight. Like, I don't see that happening. I'm sure it was, not that it's right, but I'm sure it was practice squad guys and stuff like that they were like, yeah, dude, sorry, you got a roommate the night before. So
this is what, sorry,
go ahead, Brett.
I was just saying, this is what I thought was shocking, was that Super Bowl winning champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, ranked 31st overall.
Yeah, crazy.
In their NFLPA, whack the organization survey.
I do want to say
the only A was the head coach, was Andy Reid.
And he got first. I think the funniest thing is, and someone pointed this out on Twitter, the F- is just so unnecessary.
When it happened with Steve Saunders, I didn't know it was a real. I don't know about you guys, but in school, for me, the lowest grade we could get was an F. Like F- is just like a slap in the face. Like, you are worse than the worst.
There's no reason to have F- because there are F's on there and then F-. And I think it was the Commanders got like a bunch of F- and people were like, that there was no reason for that.
The surprising F- though was the ownership.
Yeah, apparently, and this is nothing new. I know we talked about this off screen. The Chiefs owner does not have a suite or a box to watch games. It is like a house.
Yeah, it's literally his house.
It's 3 stories, 6 bedrooms in the Chiefs stadium. So it seems like he has his priorities elsewhere than.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like, this, so he could just live at the stadium.
I guess. I would assume he doesn't. Like, there's no, although, I don't know. The video that I saw, it was all decorated for Christmas, so maybe.
I would just love to hear the reasons as to why the owner deserves to be the worst in the league. Like, Dennis Snyder, obviously worse in the league before he left. And I'd have to go back and look at some 2023. Maybe somebody can pull that up, because it's pretty readily available. 2023, like, I'm sure Snyder was probably 32nd, but does that make the Hunts 31st? I don't know. Like, that's what else is it?
Actually, they didn't have, so they added head coach and owner this year. It wasn't on last year's.
Okay. Thank you for that. So yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Training staff is also 32nd. The training room's 31st. Locker room 28th. That locker room kind of makes sense, because isn't Kansas City's stadium? They haven't really made any upgrades.
I think it's an older stadium. Yeah.
So no surprise there, but like, it is a surprise to me that, the reigning champs of the Super Bowl, and really as of late, potential dynasty here, and they rank 31st among the NFLPA.
Yeah, I think it goes to show almost that, like, if you have a shot at winning and players value winning that much, which they obviously do, they'll put up with a lot. In terms of, you could go to a place that has state-of-the-art facilities, state-of-the-art stadiums, they treat you well, they treat your family well. But if they're a team that's in the middle of the pack or not winning, some players just, the goal is to win a ring. For a lot of players, the goal is to win a ring there. And different players have different priorities. And for the Chiefs, if you go there, you're going to have a shot to win, as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy and Andy Reid is there and Travis Kelce, et cetera, et cetera. So players will literally get cut mid-season and say, hey, I'm going to go sign with Kansas City because I have a shot to win a Super Bowl, even though the amenities that are there might not be as good as another team.
That's so crazy. Zach, did you say that like the Chargers charge $75 for childcare?
Yeah, and it's not on site, so it's also off site. So the Chargers, most teams, this was a big thing that came out about the reports. The majority of teams, you have on-site daycare, and it is provided to you from the team. Like, okay, thank you for playing football for our team. Let us watch your kid while you're at practice. Apparently, the Chargers are not only off-site, but it's $75 a day for the first kid, and then it's $50 for each kid after that. I love that it goes down. Like, they act like they're giving you a discount. They're like, I know no one else charges you, but you have one kid. We'll take the second for, what would that be?
It's almost like, oh yeah, we're charging you $125 for $150 value. I'm like, we're talking about like kids here, like things that for the Ravens, for example, they do a good job with that. I feel like a lot of players overall, in the grand scheme of things, feel like their families are being treated well there. But to charge, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, like billions and billions and billions of dollars. Each team is either worth hundreds of millions. Now we're in the billions. Like, I think we're done with the days of hundreds of millions. We're now in the billions for teams.
Yeah.
And, what's that $75 for one kid going to do for you? Is $75 to a multi-billion-dollar owner worth more than the satisfaction and reputation of your franchise? It's one thing if you're not willing to do $100 million renovation to something, and that's just not your budget right now. But to not offer food on certain days or on off days, the Bengals got flack for that. To have this childcare thing, it's pinching pennies at that point, considering what these owners do make in a year.
It's insane. You don't even, if you charge $75 for childcare, you don't even notice that, right? Like, what's the point?
Yeah,
I will say this.
For players, if players are making millions, it's probably just more of an annoyance for them. Like, they don't care to pay, but they're like, I think what really was upsetting was that was like not conveniently there as well. So not only were they paying for it, but they had to like go elsewhere for the childcare.
Crazy.
I will say this, that like obviously for everybody else, childcare costs $20,000 to $30,000 a year, so $75, big whoop. But like, when you're dealing with millionaires and it's $75, it's more of an annoyance than anything else. I will say this: when I worked for, I used to work for T. Rowe Price. They would charge us $20. Was it a paycheck? $20 a paycheck or $20 a month, whatever. It doesn't matter. But then they would reimburse us at the end of the year, and the whole purpose of them doing that was just so that like we would treat the facility, the gym facility, better, because like they knew that we were paying for it. So like it was kind of like that mind game. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but like, maybe you're not dicks to the child care providers as much if you're paying for it. I don't know. I don't know what that mental game is, but $75 seems kind of hilarious to these people who are making millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, and before we switch topics, shout out to the Commander strength coach, because he got an A, and everything else on the Commanders is F-, D+, B-, F-, F-, F, C, F, C, B.
You know what picture I want to have you throw up is the one of the Ferrari in that worn down garage.
Yeah.
for the Commander strength coach, and then everything else is just terrible.
Yes. Imagine, like, he's just out here literally carrying the team, I guess. Everyone just loves that guy. Yeah. He's got to be hired by someone else.
By the way, Dolphins are overachievers.
Yeah, Dolphins were first, and they got an A. The lowest they got was an A.
Straight A's. They got straight A's. That's incredible.
That's how you get number one.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that and no state income tax, they're gonna be a hot.
That no state income tax is nice for them.
Yeah, no, that's big for them.